the 96,000 home shortfall is bad news.
The Australian financial regulator ASIC may worsen the housing crisis and stifle the crypto industry with its new Info 225 update proposal, which seeks to bring all crypto under the existing regulatory environment. While they juggle notions of technological neutrality and delve into the depths of formal casuistry, it's the right moment to step back and look at the bigger picture. The outdated and entangled financial regulations are a hidden reason behind the post-COVID housing crisis, and the crypto industry could play a crucial role as a part of a comprehensive response to balance the Australian economy. Hi, my name is Dr. Alexey Konashevich, and you're on Blockchain State. Today we're going to explore my response to ASIC's consultation paper 381 updates to Info 225, and how the current regulatory framework might be strangling not only crypto innovation but also contributing to broader economic challenges. Let's dive right in. The Australian real estate market has experienced an unprecedented rise in prices and rents, fueled not only by self-perpetuating investment demand and an undersupply of residential property, but also by regulatory imbalances that favor property investment. On my other channel, I devoted an entire video to explaining how deeply financial regulations distort the national economy. Therefore, I won't spend much time on it in this video. I'll just briefly say that excessive regulatory barriers make it impossible for the real economy to attract capital on financial markets. Operating security is an expensive, slow, and bureaucratic process that requires an army of intermediaries, lawyers, brokers, tax consultants, accountants, and advisors with expertise and financial licenses. This limits the supply of financial services and products on the market, making it unable to compete with investment offerings in property. Not only that, the financial regulations explicitly restrict a free flow of capital into the real economy through securities, as there are limitations on who and how much can invest. There is a separate class of investors, sophisticated investors, who are admitted to a privileged market of financial products. While there are no such restrictions for property, as anyone can invest how much they want, therefore there is a picture where investments are restricted from flowing into the real economy. We see how the operation of securities, financial services, and financial markets are stifled, and so investments flow into real property, while we see a shortage of residential property that results in prices and rents skyrocketing, leading Australia to this housing crisis. Before we proceed, I remind you that I have a more detailed video about this issue. Find the link in the description. If you think my efforts are worthwhile, I would like to ask you a favor. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and write at least 7 words in the comments so YouTube algorithms recognize your engagement with the video. Thank you. This really motivates me to keep doing it for you. ASIC's proposal asserts that existing regulations should apply equally to digital assets and traditional financial products. It assumes that traditional frameworks can seamlessly accommodate digital finance, a claim that warrants serious scrutiny. There are fundamental differences between traditional finance and decentralized finance. Decentralized ledger, digital assets that operate on large public blockchains that provide immutable decentralized record keeping, a stark contrast to the centralized systems for which the existing regulations were designed. This gives strong reason to reconsider financial oversight practices and reporting obligations for operators. Security and custody. DeFi eliminates many centralized risks, yet introduces new cybersecurity challenges, mainly in the management of cryptographic keys, as transactions are irreversible. Custody risks. Multi-signature custody models significantly reduce the risk of loss of digital assets compared to centralized digital asset custody. This alone justifies more tailored regulatory approaches to technologically distinct types of custody. Clearing and settlement. Automated decentralized clearing and settlement reduce risks inherent in traditional financial systems. Regulation of settlement in centralized systems is reasonably strict, but just doesn't make sense with smart contracts and decentralized systems. Transparency versus privacy. The use of decentralized public blockchains can be tricky when it comes to privacy. There is always a risk of de-anonymization, but governments can't do anything about it. It's blockchain, no need to protect users. It's simply a matter of each blockchain user accepting the risk. Investors who prioritize privacy still opt for traditional finance. At the same time, blockchain transparency enhances accountability. Regulatory inefficiencies in KYC. With digital identity solutions and privacy-preserving technologies, blockchain-based systems can create more efficient KYC, know your customer, and KYT, know your transaction processes. This isn't just a futuristic idea. Instead of repetitive KYC, KYT checks on different platforms, it is feasible to create a shared trusted KYC perimeter by applying privacy-enhancing techniques and exchange protocols. I don't see anyone in the government seriously considering this. Blockchain as the register. The use of blockchain allows for a fundamental rethinking of how public and private financial registers operate, including ABN and ACN. Traditional registration requires paperwork that could be streamlined or even automated through blockchain-based smart contracts. This applies not only to public registries, but also to private registers maintained by companies and scheme operators, such as a member, option holder, or debenture holder registers. Registration itself is not a sacred act, but a means to achieve specific objectives. If these objectives can be met through blockchain, both by ASIC and private entities, it may be more efficient and reduce unnecessary bureaucracy. Publishing a compliant authorized smart contract on-chain could serve both as a formal act of registration required by ASIC, but without needing to duplicate and validate it elsewhere, and as an operational engine of the financial product and service. I will get to an example at the end of the video. Smart contract unique nature. Smart contracts exemplify a fundamental technological shift. A self-executing environment protected from interference makes human control over contract execution unnecessary, while also challenging the traditional separation of regulation and licensing for three distinct elements: financial products, services, and markets. A smart contract can represent an indivisible entity encompassing all three, underscoring the need for a more adaptable and responsive regulatory framework. I have barely scratched the surface, yet none of these critical points appear to have been adequately examined by ASIC's paper. Regulations cannot be technological neutral. General principles can be, but not regulations. They must be tailored to different technological environments, considering their specifics. Digital assets are not merely another financial format, as ASIC suggests. They operate on fundamentally different technological principles than those established before 2008. Traditional financial regulations were often designed, whether explicitly or implicitly, based on the constraints of centralized electronic systems and fragile paper-based financial structures. Applying outdated financial regulations to digital assets disregards their technological advancements. It's a short-sighted approach that stifles progress and overlooks the economic potential of DeFi. ASIC outlines regulatory guidelines they claim are applicable to digital assets and related services. Combined, these regulations amount to thousands of pages with which one must comply. Now imagine, you want to launch a smart contract with an execution mechanism that no one, not even you, can technically override and which cannot be altered. You consult these guidelines expecting clear direction, but instead encounter a maze of vague and ambiguous recommendations. Concrete answers to your situations are nowhere to be found, so you hire an army of lawyers and financial advisors who seem even less familiar with crypto than you are. You end up throwing a ton of money into tailoring your financial license application only to submit it to a regulatory body that doesn't excel in crypto competence either. The existing regulatory framework is elaborate, broad, and comprehensive. It addresses a large variety of ways to conduct financial services markets and operate financial products. But to tackle macroeconomic issues of the national economy, I see better approach in regulating fintech without changing the existing traditional regulations to create a set of simplified and automated licensing procedures that will work in parallel to those who want to leverage the advantages of the emerging technologies. So let's take a closer look. First, streamlined licensing procedure. Rather than overhauling all regulations, tailored frameworks should be developed, focusing on DeFi use cases most promising for the national economy. There is no need to cover all DeFi, but focus on certain types of assets and transactions. Second model, standardized smart contracts. Similar to replaceable rules in corporate law, standardized smart contract could provide legally recognized templates for DeFi operations, reducing the need for exhaustive legal reviews. DeFi regulatory scenarios can be streamlined through the adoption of model standard smart contracts with simplified licensing schemes. This will not close the opportunity to other forms, but custom designs will require the standard IFSL application process and full expertise by the regulator. Declarative principle. Applicants could submit declarations attesting compliance with specific requirements. This approach would streamline regulatory process while maintaining accountability. Quick start and risk-based tiers. A tiered regulatory approach would allow startups to launch with minimal requirements, scaling compliance obligations as operations grow. Lower license tiers should be fast and cheap, requiring no lawyers and limited formally and technically by smart contract design, with certain amounts and volumes and accepted obligations. After reaching these limits, the applicant is required to extend the operation limit through higher license tiers. KYC, KYT control perimeters. Blockchain technology enables digital identity solutions that facilitate compliance without the inefficiencies of the traditional KYC frameworks. Let's imagine how this rule could work in the real world. Here is Alice. She is running a successful innovative business in Australia as a sole entrepreneur and wants to expand by attracting capital in the market. Instead of a long and expensive process of incorporating by authorizing a traditional security, she can opt for creating a digital stock company. She logs into the ABR site and chooses a standard smart contract to issue security tokens. She goes through a straightforward online application answering questions and confirming statements she must agree with. She adds her business plan, it generates a hash sum of it that will be attached to the smart contract. She deploys a smart contract by choosing a blockchain network from the list of authorized, secured, decentralized ledgers. That's it. Now she has a smart contract with tokens that represent shares. Now anyone can buy them online with cryptocurrency and stablecoins or a digital dollar if it becomes available, high RBA, without any limitation or intermediaries. Any buyer will easily buy them after getting an Australian digital ID on the blockchain. Only on the blockchain. Find my video in the description if by the time you're watching it I have created it. Alice may advertise her offer to invest in her business anywhere without any limitation, as long as investment transactions are processed through this authorized smart contract. For dealing with tokens on the secondary market, one can use a DEX, decentralized crypto exchange. That is also just a standard smart contract authorized by the regulator. This exchange contract will be promoted, say, on Bob's platform, which is a popular aggregator that attracts a lot of investors. And Bob got his license for it in 5 minutes using just simple online form. But that's another story. Sorry, Bob, next time. The DEX is just an authorized Web3 application where transactions are committed on blockchain automatically. It does not require strict oversight by the regulator or excessive reporting by Bob or Alice. Now, how can Alice's investors check how Alice delivers on her business promises? It's easy. All income payments in digital form go directly to that smart contract, which then automatically handles dividend distribution. So you see, her investors are safe and calm. Alice doesn't need to prepare reports or deal with other time-consuming paperwork. The regulator no longer needs to constantly supervise the securities. The main role of the regulator is to hold the cryptographic key, as this is a regulated smart contract. So if something goes wrong, they can always step in and enforce the law. Thus, one smart contract replaced 3 separate legal procedures: ASIC registration, which was seamlessly embedded in the process of publishing the smart contract. Second, no need to maintain a separate register of shareholders, as the smart contract itself acts as the register, showing in real time who holds how many tokens with immutable history of all transactions. And 3, no need for full financial licensing process, as this is an authorized and regulated smart contract. The second smart contract, DEX, created a token trading platform that doesn't require intermediaries or regulatory oversight, effectively replacing the full application procedure for Australian market licensing. By embracing these alternatives, regulators can foster innovation, encourage investment diversification, and ultimately address economic imbalances. Crypto and DeFi are not just another financial trend. They represent an opportunity to reshape the financial system for the better. Thank you for watching Blockchain State. Until next time, I'm Dr. Alexey Konashevich, reminding you to think beyond outdated financial structures and embrace the future of digital finance.